The phone buzzes, an email comes in, and your focus just breaks. Again, that's the main struggle now. It's a low-grade war for your attention, and it leaves you feeling scattered. Tired, but the answer to this chaos might be almost 2,000 years old, written by a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius. He said the human soul is an impregnable fortress. The Stoics called it the Inner Citadel, so by the end of this, you'll have a blueprint for building that psychological stronghold inside yourself to get your focus back. Your peace. We're going to see how an ancient mental fortress can defend you from a digital siege, and why real engagement with life starts not by fighting every distraction, but by fortifying one. What does an unshakable mind feel like in a world that's built to shake you? The inner citadel is a metaphor. A precise one. It's not a fantasy, not a place to hide. It's the one part of your life that is always your own. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, they saw the mind in two parts. There's the outer city, that's everything that happens to you, the traffic jam, the comment from a coworker, the news alert. These are events, they're external. They happen, you don't control them, and then, inside that noisy city, there's a quiet, fortified space, the inner citadel. That's the realm of your judgments. Your values, your will. It's where you decide what any external event means. The traffic jam is an event, but your decision to listen to an audiobook instead of simmering. That's an act of the citadel. The critical comment is just sound. Your choice to consider it or let it roll off. That's the citadel at work. Marcus Aurelius wrote a line in his journal. He said the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your citadel isn't just a retreat. It's the workshop where you choose the colors. You're constantly taking the raw material of events and dyeing them with your interpretation. Is this interruption a crisis or just a change of plans? Is this distraction a failing or a signal to redirect? The power is in that choice, so this idea is the opposite of escapism. It's not about building walls so high you see nothing. It's about building a foundation so solid the storms outside can't shake what's inside, your sovereignty. Your ability to choose your response. Think of your phone buzzing, the buzz, the light on the screen. That's the external city. It happened, but the next 3 seconds. That's the territory of the citadel. Do you feel a compulsive pull, an automatic reach? Or do you observe the impulse, acknowledge it, and decide, my focus is on this conversation, this task. I choose not to let the external city dictate my state. That conscious pause, that's you walking through the gates of your fortress and closing them. Ask yourself, where do you most often confuse the external event with your internal reaction? Do you feel a stressful email is itself your stress, or is the stress your chosen response to that email? The space between those two ideas, that thin, powerful line, that's the wall of your inner citadel. The biggest distraction might not be your phone. It might be your first thought about it. That first reaction, that's where the battle is won or lost. That's the first wall, the most important one. The Stoics had a name for it, the discipline of perception. Your power isn't in what happens, it's in how you see it the moment it arrives. Any ping, any interruption, any demand lands first as a raw impression. The Stoics called that a fantasia. It's just data, a neutral signal, but we have this habit, a deep one. We instantly slap a label on it. We call it an emergency, a catastrophe, an insult, or we call it irresistible, fascinating, something we have to see right now. That labeling isn't the event. It's your first automatic judgment. And that judgment is the open gate. That's where distraction floods in. Epictetus said it clearly. People are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. The email is just text on a screen. The view you take that it's a disaster, that it proves you're failing, that it needs your whole emotional state, that's what creates the disturbance. So the first wall is that tiny pause, the space between the impression and your assent to it, between the buzz and the story you tell about what the buzz means. To make it practical, you're working, a message pops up from a colleague, it's terse, maybe a bit critical. The undisciplined perception jumps to a story. They're angry with me, I messed up, this will ruin the project, now my whole day is stressful. That story feels true. It hijacks your focus. The disciplined perception, the one behind this first wall, sees the same data differently. It says, a message has arrived, it contains these words, my colleague might be under pressure. This requires a clear response later. For now, I choose to continue my work. The event is the same, the outcome is worlds apart. One leaves you scattered and anxious, the other keeps you anchored, capable. This wall isn't about suppressing feeling. It's about inserting a moment of sovereignty before the feeling forms. It's the difference between being a reactor and an observer who then chooses, so a prompt to try. Think of a minor annoyance from this week, the slow driver, the misplaced item, the change in plans. Now mentally reframe it, strip away the story you told yourself. See it as a simple, neutral event. A car was moving at a certain speed. An object was in a different location. A plan shifted. Notice how the emotional weight changes when you remove the judgment you attached to the fact. That space, that quiet moment of reframing, is you standing on the first wall. You're no longer a prisoner of the first impression. You are its gatekeeper. Modern life is always selling us new things to want, and Stoicism says, guard the one desire that actually matters. That's this second wall, the discipline of desire. They called it prohersis. It's your faculty of choice, your moral purpose. It's what you truly want deep down, and the defense is radical. You fortify it by wanting only what's in your control. Your own actions, your own character, everything else you learn to see with indifference. Epictetus drew that line. Some things are up to us, he said. Some things are not. Up to us our opinions, our impulses, what we want, what we avoid. Not up to us our body, our property, our reputation, any public office. And the whole project, the path to a peaceful mind, is to invest your desire only in that first column, to want only what is yours to command. Think about distraction. It doesn't usually attack head-on, it seduces you. It hooks a desire, the phone ping that's promising social validation, the endless scroll that's offering a hit of novelty. Worrying over an email that taps a desire to control someone else's opinion. Each one is a desire you've placed outside your walls. You want an outcome you can't guarantee. You want everyone to like you. You want the project to go perfectly. You want to never feel bored or uncertain. And when you tie your happiness to those external prizes, you hand the keys of your citadel to the world. You're not sovereign anymore, you're a supplicant waiting for the world to give you what you want. But when you shift that fundamental desire to the internal, when you desire only to act with integrity right now, with courage, with justice, with wisdom in this moment, then something happens. The gate slams shut on distraction. Because you can't be distracted from a task that's entirely yours to perform right here. The desire for likes on a post, that's fragile. It depends on algorithms. On the moods of strangers, it leaves you refreshing the screen, anxious, scattered. The desire to express something true, though, to craft a sentence with care. To learn a skill for its own sake, that desire is unshakable. It's a fire you light inside your own walls. The outside world can't feed it, and it can't put it out. So the practical work of this wall is a constant audit. When you feel that pull toward your phone, you ask, what desire is this serving? Is it a desire for connection, which I could fulfill by calling a friend? Or is it a desire to escape a difficult feeling, which I could address by just sitting with it for a minute? When you feel anxiety about a meeting, You ask, do I desire to control the outcome which isn't mine? Or do I desire to prepare thoroughly and speak honestly, which is entirely mine? This discipline turns the chaos of modern wanting into a source of power. Your energy isn't sprayed in a million directions anymore, chasing ghosts of approval and certainty. It's focused like a laser on the one thing you can always do. Choose your action, choose your attitude right here. So here's a question. What's one common desire you chase that depends entirely on other people's opinions or on some specific external result? Maybe it's the desire for a promotion that hinges on a boss's whim, or the desire for a social event to go exactly as you pictured. Notice the tension that desire creates. How it makes you a hostage to forces you can't command. Now consider the shift. What if your desire was simply to do excellent work regardless of the title? Or to be genuinely present with people, no matter how the plan unfolds? Feel the difference. One leaves you anxious and grasping, the other leaves you calm and capable. That quiet capability, that's the feeling of a fortified will, that's the second wall standing firm. You can't defend a fortress if the enemy is already inside. The alerts, the feeds, all that noise, it's not just outside, it's in your pocket, on your wrist, glowing on the desk right in front of you. The Stoics understood this idea of environment, but they saw it as a mental discipline. They called it Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It's not about expecting the worst. It's about seeing the predictable challenges to your peace so you can prepare your defenses ahead of time. For a Roman senator, that might mean foreseeing the gossip in the forum. For us, it means foreseeing the pull of the phone, and then you build a moat. This isn't about rejecting technology. It's a strategy for engagement. Seneca wrote about guarding your mind from being polluted by the crowd. He advised seeking solitude, not to run away, but to come back clearer. He said we have to limit contact with the masses because a crowd is a danger to our tranquility. Today, the crowd is virtual, but the principle is the same. Constant connection scatters your thoughts. It pulls your desires in 100 directions. So you have to create intentional space, a buffer, a moat of distance between your inner self and the constant siege of information. The practical work is environmental engineering, building that moat with simple, physical actions. It starts with the most invasive things, notifications. Go into your settings and turn off every alert that isn't essential. Does a social media app really need to tell you someone liked a photo from 3 days ago? Does a news app need to interrupt your morning with a headline you could read later? Each notification is a tiny breach in the wall, a demand for your immediate judgment. Silencing them is like raising the drawbridge. Next, schedule blocks for deep work. Treat them like sacred appointments. During that time, the phone is in another room. The browser tabs for anything else are closed. You're telling the digital world, for this hour, this fortress is closed. The world will wait, or consider a phone-free first hour of the day. Before you take in the world's chaos, give your own mind a chance to wake up, to set its own tone. That first hour is when you die the soul, as Marcus Aurelius said. Let it be your thoughts, not a trending topic. These aren't acts of deprivation, they're acts of sovereignty. You're not saying no to the world, you're saying yes to your own capacity to engage with it on your terms. With focus, you're draining the moat of its distracting water so you can see clearly what actually needs your attention. So here's a challenge for the week. Design one small, intentional change to your environment, just one. It could be, I'll charge my phone outside the bedroom, or I'll turn off all social media notifications for 7 days. Or I'll have a 30-minute block each afternoon where the internet is completely off. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to practice being the architect of your environment instead of its prisoner. To feel what it's like when the gates are secured, when the noise of the world becomes a distant murmur instead of a shout in your ear. That quiet isn't emptiness. It's the sound of your own mind ready to work. Your attention is the gatekeeper. It decides what gets inside, and everything that gets in, it shapes the place. The Stoics had a word for this, prosoch. It's mindful attention, a kind of vigilance over your own mind and what it lets in. It's not just focus, it's the choice. The active choice of what you grant entry to, and they saw that as a duty, a sacred one, because what you attend to, that's what you become. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it. He said, concentrate every minute like a Roman on what's in front of you. Do it with serious, genuine care. That's the job, the gatekeeper's job. It's not to block out the world. It's to decide, to use sober judgment and ask what deserves your serious consideration right now. And that stands in contrast, stark contrast to the world we're in. Modern platforms, they aren't designed to inform you. They're engineered to capture your attention, to fragment it, to keep that gate swinging open, rusty hinges letting in a chaotic parade. A notification isn't a call to focus, it's a call to switch. A trending topic isn't an invitation to think, it's a lure for reactive emotion. And when your attention is pulled in 10 directions every minute, the walls of your citadel don't just get thin, they start to feel irrelevant. You're not guarding a quiet space for judgment anymore. You're standing in a noisy marketplace, trying to hear your own thoughts. From a Stoic view, wasting this faculty, it isn't just inefficient, it's a kind of moral failing. Because your attention is the resource, the one you direct toward living according to your nature, which is reason. To fritter it away on gossip or outrage or trivial entertainment, that's to neglect your highest function. It's like a soldier abandoning his post at the most critical gate. You can feel the difference in two simple acts. Take scrolling through a reactive news feed. Your eyes jump headline to headline, a tragedy here, a political scandal there, an influencer's perfect vacation. Each one hooks a different emotion. Fear, anger, envy. Your attention is scattered, it's passive, and ultimately it's drained. You've let the chaos of the external city dictate the weather inside your walls. Now compare that to reading a book with full focus, or having a conversation where you're truly listening, or working on a craft with your hands. Here, your attention is directed. It's a beam of light you control. You are the gatekeeper, choosing one worthy thing and saying, for now, this is what matters. That act, that sustained attention, it doesn't just accomplish a task. It actively strengthens the walls, it reinforces your sovereignty. So here's a simple audit, a revealing one. Think about 5 minutes of your day. Maybe it was this morning with your coffee. Or a lull in the afternoon. Where did your attention actually go? Did it rest on a single thought, a page of text, the details of your surroundings, or did it flicker? From your phone to a worry, to a memory, to another tab on your screen. And most importantly, was that journey directed by your choice, or by default by the gatekeeper? Or by the crowd outside shouting for a look? That question, asked honestly, it shows you who is really in command. A soldier doesn't build a fortress empty-handed. You need tools. Stoicism gives you those tools. We've talked about the walls, the moat, the gatekeeper, but a defense sits only as strong as what you have inside. That's the armory, and for the Stoics, the most powerful weapons weren't swords. They were words, ideas, the writings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. They weren't meant to be abstract theory. They were designed as tools, practical, psychological tools, a daily supply of mental reinforcement, something to shore up your defenses when the siege gets loud. Think of it this way: a wave of anxiety hits about a deadline, say. Your mind offers its own arguments. It says, I'm going to fail, or this is too much. That's the noise, the external city, echoing in your head. But if you have a Stoic passage ready, it's like having a counter-argument prepared. You can reach for Marcus Aurelius. He wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, and suddenly that deadline isn't just a threat, it's the material. The very material you're meant to work with. The anxiety doesn't vanish, but now it has to contend with a stronger voice, a clearer voice, your own inner general speaking from the armory. This is why the Stoics kept journals, commonplace books. They copied down quotes, reflected on them, made them personal. Seneca's letters to Lucilius, they're a perfect example. They're not grand treatises, they're daily doses, a reminder about the shortness of life one day, an argument against anger the next. He was stocking his mental armory. And Lucilius's, stocking it with ready responses to life's inevitable troubles. The practice is simple, but its effect is profound. It's active mental training. You're not just reading philosophy, you're installing a new operating system for your judgments. You read Epictetus saying, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. And you're not just learning a principle, you're forging a tool, so the next time a harsh email lands or a comment stings, you can feel that tool click into place. The event is separate, your reaction, that's your sovereign territory. That single line becomes a mantra. It cuts through the digital noise. It reminds you where your power actually lies. So here's a practical step. Find one Stoic quote, just one that resonates with a current challenge. Maybe it's about change or handling criticism. Or just finding focus. Write it down on a card, put it on your mirror, set it as a lock screen for a week. Don't just glance at it, read it aloud in the morning. Let it be the first voice you invite into your citadel for the day. Then, when the predictable challenge arises, the distraction, the frustration, see if you can hear that quote in your mind. Before your old, automatic reactions take over, that moment, that split second where the tool from the armory gets used, that's where philosophy stops being an idea and starts being a defense. It's you choosing the weapon instead of being wounded by the chaos. From up in the citadel, the marketplace doesn't go quiet. You still hear the noise, see the movement. But from this height, it looks different. It's small, just small movements. This is the final defensive position, the Watchtower. The Stoics had a name for it, the view from above. It's a mental shift. You rise up from the immediate moment to see your life inside a bigger frame, the frame of a whole lifespan or history or even the cosmos. Marcus Aurelius did this all the time. In his journal, he'd remind himself, he'd write, think of universal substance of which you have a tiny piece. And universal time, where you get just a brief interval, and destiny, how small a part of it you are. He wasn't trying to feel insignificant, he was after clarity. From that altitude, the petty stuff loses its heat, the social slights, the need to be right in some argument online. They become what they are, fleeting sparks. Just sparks in a long, dark night. That perspective works against the urgency we're fed now. A news cycle tells you this story is the most important thing. Social media feeds on your outrage, or your envy, making one person's opinion or one vacation photo feel like a verdict on your whole life. The view from above breaks that illusion. It asks a simple question. In the context of your one life, will this matter next week, next year, on your last day? Make it practical. You're scrolling and you see a post. Someone's celebrating a big achievement and you feel that pang, a mix of envy and anxiety. That's the hook. It pulls you into a story of lack of comparison. So you engage the Watchtower, you zoom out mentally, see this single moment on the timeline of your entire life. See it next to all your own quiet victories, your relationships, your struggles. See that other achievement as one point on a vast map of human endeavor. From this height, the pang doesn't vanish, but it's surrounded by context. It's no longer a defining emotion. It's a passing weather pattern in the climate of your soul. You can acknowledge it and let it drift by without letting it storm through your inner halls. Or take online conflict, a harsh comment, a misinterpreted message. The impulse is to fire back, to defend, to win, but from the Watchtower you see the absurd scale. Two strangers miles apart, lit by screens, investing real emotion in a disagreement both will forget in 48 hours. Seen from above, the choice gets clear. Do you spend a piece of your one, irreplaceable life force on this? Or do you conserve that energy for what actually builds your citadel, your real work, your real connections, your own peace? The exercise is simple, but it takes practice. Next time you feel that familiar tug, the heat of irritation, the cold drip of worry, the pull to refresh, just pause. For a breath, then in your mind rise. Picture looking down at your room, your street, your city. See the tiny lights of thousands of other lives, each with their own private dramas. Pull back further, see the continent, the planet, a pale blue dot in the blackness of space, and in all that vast silence locate your current feeling. That urgent email, that social slight, that notification, see it for the minute, temporary speck it is. This doesn't belittle your experience, it frees you from being tyrannized by it. You regain the power to choose what gets your full attention and what's just background noise in the grand story you're living. From the Watchtower, you're not lost in the marketplace anymore. You're its calm observer, and your gaze is on the horizon. The loudest distractions aren't outside, they're the stories we tell ourselves. A notification is just a sound. But then the commentary starts. What does that mean? Who is that? What do they want? That's the real siege, the final layer of defense, the courtyard. A space of inner silence, the Greeks called it hesychia. It's not the absence of sound, it's quieting the internal tumult that the outside noise triggers. Seneca wrote about this. He said, "What is required is not a change of surroundings, but a change of mind. You must lay aside the burdens of the soul. Until you do that, no place will satisfy you. That burden is the constant commentary, the planning, the worrying, the comparing, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened." A busy mind is its own marketplace. It's far noisier than any social media feed. Your phone can be off, your room can be quiet, but if your mind is churning with commentary on the past or anxiety about the future, there is no peace. The courtyard is stepping out of that marketplace into a quiet, open space within your own walls. This isn't about emptying the mind, that's impossible. It's about changing your relationship to the thoughts, moving from being the actor in the mental drama to being the calm observer in the courtyard, watching the play unfold without getting pulled onto the stage. Think of two states. First, you check your email. Immediately, your mind leaps. This needs a reply. That project is behind. This person is unhappy. I need to schedule that meeting. I should have said this yesterday. It's a chain reaction, judgment and reaction. Your inner space feels cluttered, urgent, scattered. Now, the courtyard practice. You sit for 5 minutes. You focus on your breath or the sensation of sitting. Thoughts arise. A worry about work floats in. Instead of grabbing it and running with it, "Oh no, let me think about that right now," you simply notice it. You might label it planning or worry, and then you gently return your attention to your breath. You don't judge the thought as bad. You don't engage its story. You observe it like watching a cloud drift across the sky in your courtyard. It has no power to pull you away because you're not following it. You're just acknowledging its passing. This is the ultimate Stoic exercise, the discipline of perception applied to your own inner world. You are separating the raw impression, the thought itself, from your assent to its narrative. You are building a buffer zone between stimulus and your full emotional response. In that buffer zone lies a profound freedom. The freedom to not be hijacked by every passing mental weather pattern. So here is a reflective prompt, a simple way to visit your courtyard. For just 2 minutes today, try this. Sit comfortably, close your eyes if you wish. Set a gentle timer. Your only task is to watch your thoughts. Don't try to stop them, don't analyze them, just notice them as they come and go. If you find yourself carried away by a story, that's okay. The moment you notice it, gently guide your attention back back to the simple act of observing. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. That awareness is the quiet, sunlit center of your inner citadel. It's the space where, regardless of the noise outside or the echoes within, you can always return. To simply be, and from that place of silence, every other defense grows stronger. A fortress built on sand collapses, and the foundation of the inner citadel is living in accordance with nature. That phrase can sound mystical, but for the Stoics it was the most practical thing. Nature meant two things woven together. First, universal nature. The way the world actually works, its laws. Gravity exists, change is constant, other people have free will. And second, your own human nature, which is to be rational, to be social, to use reason to navigate that universal nature. The foundation is that alignment, building not on a fantasy of how you wish things were, but on the solid ground of how things are. When you fight universal nature, you exhaust yourself. It's like building a wall against the tide. You can rage at the water, but it will still come in. The modern world has a nature too. Social media is engineered to capture attention. News cycles run on urgency. Workplaces often value constant availability. To wish these things weren't so, to constantly resent them, is to build on sand. Your energy goes into the resentment, not into your defense. Acceptance isn't surrender. It's the first step of strategy. You have to see the battlefield clearly to know where to put your walls. Accepting that algorithms are designed to be addictive doesn't mean you have to be addicted. It means you understand the terrain. Then your rational nature can make a plan. You can say, given this is how the tool is built, I'll use it with intention for 30 minutes after dinner and then put it away. You're not fighting the ocean. You're learning to swim in it or choosing to walk on the shore. The early Stoics, Zeno and Cleans, spoke of this harmony as the highest good, to live in agreement with nature. Marcus Aurelius returned to it constantly. He wrote that everything that happens, happens as it should. If you observe carefully, you'll find this to be so. He wasn't saying every event is good. He was saying it's part of the interconnected cause and effect fabric of the whole. Resisting it is like a single thread trying to rebel against the weave. It only creates friction within itself. Your peace comes from aligning your will with that weave, from using your thread of reason to contribute to the pattern, not tear at it. So make it practical. Think of a persistent source of distraction. Maybe it's the expectation of instant replies, which feels like an invasion of focus. Fighting it looks like simmering with anger every time a notification arrives, wishing the culture were different, feeling victimized. That weakens your foundation. Acceptance and alignment look different. You acknowledge the reality. In my current role, rapid communication is part of the culture. That is the nature of this situation. Then your rational human nature engages. You might set a boundary. I check messages at these 3 times each day. Or you might use a focus app to batch notifications. You're not fighting the unchangeable fact of the expectation. You're changing your intelligent response to it. You're building on the solid ground of what is, and using your reason to navigate it. Consider where you're fighting an unchangeable aspect of modern life. The sheer volume of information, the pace of change, the reality that other drivers will be slow, that plans will sometimes fall apart. Notice the mental energy that fight consumes, then shift the question. How could accepting this reality as simply part of the landscape actually strengthen your position? Acceptance isn't saying you like it, it's saying you see it, and from that clear-eyed view, your rational nature, your true strength, can finally get to work. It can design a life, a habit, a boundary that is resilient not because it denies the world, but because it understands it completely. That understanding is the bedrock. Everything else is built there. To build a citadel that can't be breached by distraction, you sometimes have to let a little discomfort in. This is the final stage of training. The Stoics had a name for it: ascesis, voluntary discomfort. It's not self-punishment, it's a drill. a deliberate exercise to show your own mind that you aren't owned by external things. That you can feel the itch of wanting something and just decide not to scratch it, and in that decision your inner walls get thicker. Seneca was known for this. He was among the wealthiest in Rome, but he would practice poverty on purpose. He'd sleep on a hard bed, wear plain clothes, eat simple food for days. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" He was testing his foundation. He was asking his mind, is comfort a necessity or just a preference? If it's just a preference, then going without it isn't a crisis. It's just a shift in the weather inside your fortress. Now apply that to the modern siege. Our discomfort is rarely physical now, it's psychological. It's the discomfort of boredom, of feeling left out, of not knowing what's happening. And the digital world markets itself as the cure for that exact itch. Feeling bored, here's infinite scroll. Feeling lonely, here's a feed of updates. Voluntary discomfort means choosing to let that itch be there and watching it. Without instantly grabbing the digital pacifier, you prove to yourself the feeling is survivable, that you're stronger than the impulse. So what does voluntary discomfort look like now? It could be a 24-hour digital detox. From sunset to sunset, no social media, no news, no streaming, just the world as it is and your thoughts as they are. Notice the pulls, the automatic reach for your phone, the low-grade anxiety about what you might be missing. That anxiety is the target. You're not trying to kill it. You're sitting with it, showing your mind this feeling doesn't have command authority, or it could be smaller, taking a cold shower for the last 60 seconds. Not as punishment, but as a conscious choice to endure a sensation you usually avoid. Skipping your usual evening streaming to just sit quietly instead. Eating a simple meal with no screen for company. The goal is never the hardship itself. The goal is the mental muscle you build by choosing it. Every time you feel the urge to check, and you consciously decide not to, you're running a small military exercise inside your citadel. You're training the garrison, your will to hold the gate under a mild assault. So when a real distraction comes with its full emotional pull, your defenses are already battle-tested. They don't panic, they've seen this before. Your challenge is to plan one small act of voluntary discomfort this week. Just one. It should be minor but intentional. Maybe leaving your phone at home during a walk, or not turning on the radio during your commute, or fasting from one app for a full day. The important part is the observation. As you do it, watch your mind, listen to the arguments it makes. This is silly, you're missing out, just check once, it won't hurt. That voice is the distraction's ambassador, trying to negotiate the gates open. Your silent endurance is your reply. The gate stays shut, and with that single, quiet act, you don't just avoid a distraction, you become, in a tangible way, more free. Information is a siege now. It never stops. You can't stop the arrows coming. The news, the alerts, the opinions, it's a constant barrage against your attention. Trying to stop it is like one soldier holding back an army. You'll be overrun. The Stoic defense isn't to fight the army, it's to put on your armor. That armor is equanimity. A calm mind that knows what to let in and what to let glance off. This comes back to the core tool, the dichotomy of control. You can't control the volume of information the world makes. That's an external, an arrow already in the air. What you can control completely are two things, your consumption gates and your internal processing. You decide what sources you open, you decide when you check them, you decide how long you dwell on a story, and most critically, you decide what judgment you attach to it. Is this news a catastrophe or just a report of events? Is this opinion a personal attack or just another voice out there? Your judgment is the final gate. Epictetus said it plainly, do not be troubled by things beyond your sphere. The churn of global events, the social media drama, the speculation about tomorrow, these are largely beyond your sphere. To be troubled by them is to volunteer for a siege that wasn't aimed at you. So how do you wear this armor? You implement a Stoic filter, a mental checkpoint before you consume anything. You ask two questions. First, is the subject of this information within my control? If it's about a political decision on another continent, or a celebrity's life, or the future of some technology, the answer is almost always no. It's beyond your sphere. The second question is more powerful. Will engaging with this help me act with virtue right now? Will it make me more wise, more courageous, or more temperate in my own life? If you're reading analysis to understand an issue so you can vote thoughtfully, that might be a yes. If you're scrolling comments to stoke your outrage, that's a clear no. If the content fails both filters, you let it pass by the gates. You don't fight it, you just don't grant it entry. You let the arrow thud against the wall and fall away. Think of a typical morning. You open a news app. Headlines scream about a crisis, a scandal, a market swing. The undisciplined mind absorbs it all as urgent weight. It carries that anxiety into the day. The mind with the Stoic filter sees the headline. It applies the filter. Is this within my control? No. Will reading more about this help me act with virtue today? Probably not. It would likely just cultivate anxiety or anger, emotions that cloud judgment, so the decision is made. I acknowledge the event exists. I might skim for basic awareness, but I do not grant it residency in my inner courtyard. I don't let it set the emotional weather for my day. I close the app and turn to what is within my sphere. My work, my interactions, my own state of mind. This filter turns you from a passive consumer, a target in the field, into an active gatekeeper, safe behind the walls. The siege doesn't stop, but its power to harm you diminishes with every conscious choice to filter. So here's a practical drill. List your top 3 sources of information overload. Be specific. It might be a news website, a social media platform, checking work email after hours. Now apply the Stoic filter to each one. For each source, ask, is the majority of content here about things within my control? And does engaging with it typically help me act with virtue? Or does it more often drain my focus and stir unproductive emotion? The answers show you where your walls are thinnest, where you need a more vigilant guard. This isn't about ignorance, it's about intelligent engagement. Choosing to arm yourself with only what helps you live well, and letting the rest of the siege rage on harmlessly outside. Social media isn't some enemy outside the walls. It's more like a foreign court. Ambassadors from every kind of human experience are there, and in a court like that, you don't send a hermit, you don't send a soldier. You send a diplomat. The Stoics talked about justice, about sociability. We're built for community. Cutting off the digital world completely, that might work as a short-term tactic for some people. But for most of us, that's not living fully according to our nature. We're social beings, so the goal isn't to leave the court, it's to learn how to walk through it. With wisdom, with purpose, with an inner protocol that doesn't shake. A diplomat knows why they're there. They have a mission to foster some understanding, to share information that has value, to maintain a connection. They don't get pulled into every local argument. A critical remark isn't taken as a declaration of war. They engage with strategy, not with a raw reaction. And this is where the old advice on difficult people gets very modern. Marcus Aurelius wrote about meeting others with a simple stance. He said, when you wake up, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil. I know the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, so I can't be angry with my kinsman. I can't hate him. We were born to work together, to bear with each other, to put up with them, and to care for them. Now take that to your screen, the person posting in anger. The one arguing in bad faith. The profile showing a perfect life. They're acting from their own confusion, their own pain, their own limited view. To see them as wrongdoers against you is to misunderstand the court. They're just inhabitants of it, acting according to their own judgments, which are flawed, just as yours can be. Your diplomatic mission isn't to correct every one of them. It's to maintain your own virtue, to act with justice, which means giving each person what they are due, and that might just be your silence or your disengagement. To act with courage, which means posting something true even if it's not popular, or walking away from a debate that goes nowhere. Think about 2 visits to this court. The first is doom scrolling. You click on a political thread, you read a comment that irritates you, you fire back a clever retort, someone else jumps in. Your heart rate climbs, your focus shatters, you leave feeling agitated, drained. That's not diplomacy, that's being conscripted into a street brawl. You went in without a mission and got lost in the chaos. Now, the diplomatic mission. You open the same app with a purpose. You think, my mission today is to share one piece of work I'm proud of, and to send 2 messages of genuine encouragement to friends. You post your work, you scroll briefly, and you see a friend who shared a difficult personal update. You stop, you send them a direct, kind message. You see the political thread, and you recognize it as a district of the court where you have no business today. You keep scrolling, you log off having completed your mission. You feel connected, purposeful. Your inner citadel is undisturbed because you were its ambassador, not its prisoner. So the practical protocol is simple, but it needs that first moment of clarity. Set time limits for these diplomatic missions, maybe 20 minutes in the evening. And before you enter, state your purpose aloud. I am going on a diplomatic mission to share my creative work and to connect with 3 people I care about. Anything else I encounter is just local color. It doesn't require my engagement. That frames the whole experience. Now, a prompt. What is your single, core purpose for using your main social platform? Is it to stay informed about your industry, to share your art, to maintain ties with distant family? Write it down in 1 sentence. Then, for the next week, before you open that app, recite that purpose to yourself. And as you scroll, keep asking, is this action, this click, this comment serving my diplomatic mission? Or is it pulling me into a street brawl I never intended to join? The alignment between your purpose and your action, that's the measure of your wisdom in the court. It turns a potential siege into a series of purposeful, peaceful exchanges. A fortress needs maintenance. For the Stoics, that was the evening review. After the day's skirmishes, after the gates are closed, you walk the walls. You check for cracks, you see where the enemy almost got in. That's the practice of meditatio, a quiet, deliberate look at the day. It's not a court-martial. It's the calm work of a repair crew, assessing damage to strengthen the structure, not to assign blame. Seneca wrote about this in his essay on anger. He described his own nightly ritual. He would ask 3 questions. What bad habit did you cure today? What fault did you resist? In what way are you better? His focus was on progress, on spotting the small breach before it becomes a collapsed wall. For us, the review turns to our attention, to the siege of distraction. You sit for a few quiet minutes. You look back on the day with a gentle, rational eye. Where did you let the noise in? Where did you hold the line? Let's make it concrete. Say around mid-afternoon, you were writing a report. A notification popped up for a group chat. You felt that familiar pull. You told yourself you'd just glance. 20 minutes later, you were deep in a conversation. Your focus shattered. That's a breach. In the evening review, you examine it without drama. You ask the Stoic questions. First, what was the initial impression, the sound, the light on the screen? That was neutral. Second, What judgment did I instantly attach? You likely thought, this might be important, or I need a break anyway. That was your assent. You gave the external event permission to command your attention. Third, what would a better response look like tomorrow? Maybe it's having your phone face down during deep work, or training yourself to observe the impulse to check, acknowledge it, and return to the task. You're not berating yourself. You're diagnosing the mechanics of the breach so you can repair the weak point. The power is in consistency, the daily maintenance that prevents a catastrophic collapse. It turns scattered days into a deliberate curriculum for your mind. Each evening, you're not just ending a day, you're fortifying the next one. So here's a simple prompt, a 3-minute repair. Tonight before sleep, find a quiet moment. Ask yourself one focused question. Where did I hand over the keys to my attention today? Pick one instance. It might be those lost 20 minutes on the phone, or the time spent worrying over a future event you can't control. Look at it calmly. What was the hook? Was it boredom, anxiety, the fear of missing out? Then decide on one tiny, practical adjustment for tomorrow. Maybe it's, I will do my first hour of work with my internet disconnected. Or when I feel the urge to check news, I will take 3 deep breaths first. That's it. No grand resolutions, one noted breach and one planned repair. This quiet act of observation is how a fortress learns. It's how you, stone by stone, become unshakable. What if every distraction thrown at you could be caught and used to build your walls higher? That's the final defensive move, the Trebuchet counter. You take the force of the attack and turn its energy back on itself. The Stoics called this the alchemy of obstacles. Marcus Aurelius wrote it, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The distraction, the frustration, the delay, it's not a blockade, it is the path. It's the raw material for your training. Think of it like this. Each time you feel the pull toward your phone and you choose to stay with your task, you're not just avoiding something. You're building something. You're reinforcing a neural pathway. You're telling your brain your focus is stronger than the impulse. That moment of resistance is a rep in a mental gym. The distraction provides the weight, your will provides the lift, and with every repetition, the muscle of your attention grows thicker, more resilient. The obstacle didn't weaken you, it gave you the resistance to grow stronger. Now take this to the small sieges of a normal day. You're stuck in a long line at the store. The old script says this is wasted time, an annoyance, so you pull out your phone, you disappear into a scroll, you've surrendered the moment. The Trebuchet counter sees the same situation as a training ground. This line is a perfect, low-stakes opportunity to practice presence, to practice patience. You put the phone away, you feel the itch of impatience, the slight boredom. You observe your surroundings, you take a few deep, deliberate breaths. You are using the obstacle, the weight, as the material for building equanimity. You are transforming lost time into gained composure. A boring meeting offers the same fuel. Instead of checking out or answering emails, you engage in a subtle drill. You practice active listening. You watch the dynamics in the room. You focus on understanding one core point completely. The meeting might still be dull, but you are no longer passive. You are using the circumstance to train your focus amidst tedium. You are turning the pebble of boredom into the grit that polishes your attention. This principle reshapes your entire relationship with challenge. The notification that interrupts isn't just a thief of time. It's a sentry calling you to your post, a test of your discipline. The harsh comment online isn't just noise, it's a call to practice the detachment you've been building. Each apparent attack carries the energy for your own defense if you know how to capture it. So here's a prompt. Identify one common, daily obstacle you usually resent. It could be your commute, waiting for water to boil, the lull in your afternoon energy. Now, brainstorm one way to use it as focused training. If it's the commute, could it be 10 minutes of practicing the view from above, observing your thoughts from a distance? If it's the afternoon lull, could it be 2 minutes of seated silence, using the fatigue as the anchor for your mindfulness? The goal isn't to love the obstacle. It's to stop seeing it as an enemy and start recognizing it as an unlooked-for supply of building material. Stone by stone, distraction by distraction, you are not under siege. You are under construction. You see all these flags flying over your citadel. Are they yours, or do they belong to the algorithm? Every ping, every metric on a screen, it's a little flag someone else is trying to plant on your walls. They measure your worth in likes, in followers, in output. And if you let them, those flags become your compass. You start navigating your whole day by their direction, chasing that validation, feeling lost when the wind shifts. Stoicism offers something else, a single, unchanging standard to raise above your own fortress, your character, measured by 4 things: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. That's your true north. Epictetus said it bluntly. If anyone tells you that someone speaks ill of you, don't make excuses. Just answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, otherwise he wouldn't have mentioned only these. His point is, don't live for the praise, don't flee the criticism. Their judgment is based on a fragment, on external things. Your own measure, your virtue, is complete. It's internal. It's a flag you sew yourself from the fabric of your choices. The good is in your actions, not in the applause that may or may not come. Make it practical. Say you have 2 hours for creative work. You could use it to craft something thoughtful, something true. That requires wisdom to plan, courage to share something genuine, justice in giving it your full effort, temperance to stay focused. The external metric, how many see it, like it, that's uncertain. It's a gamble. Or you could use those same 2 hours chasing a viral trend, making something purely for attention. It might work, you might get that hit of validation, but the process itself, it likely required little of your deeper virtue. It was a transaction, not an expression. Which of those 2 hours actually fortified your citadel? Which one left you more rooted in who you are, no matter the outcome? The virtuous action builds the fortress. The chase for external metrics just has you running outside the walls, trying to catch flags blowing in the wind. So here's a prompt. Tonight, take a moment. Write down your answer to this. What are my personal, virtue-based metrics for a good day? Set aside the external achievements, the finished list, the social plans, the numbers on a screen. Instead, write answers like these. Today was good because I acted with courage in a difficult conversation. Today was good because I practiced temperance, turning away from a gossipy thread online. Today was good because I sought wisdom, pausing to understand before I reacted. Today was good because I acted with justice, giving my full attention to the person in front of me. Those are the flags that belong to you. When you raise them, the siege outside loses its power. You're no longer playing by its rules. You've defined the game. And you're already winning it with every virtuous choice. A good general scouts the battlefield. A Stoic scouts their own day. That's the practice of premeditation. Premeditatio malorum, the pre-consideration of troubles, but the point isn't to make you anxious. It's to disarm those troubles before they ever get to you. You gather intelligence on your own predictable distractions. You draft a plan for a serene response, so when the event happens, it feels less like an ambush. More like a drill you've already run. Your inner citadel is ready. Seneca wrote about this constantly. He said we should anticipate not just that we might lose things, but that we will lose them. By doing that, he wrote, we can soften the attacks of all future misfortune. The goal is to see the thing coming, to have your philosophical stance already in place. For us, the misfortunes are often these small sieges on our attention. The stressful email that lands at 4 p.m., the notification from a game during your focused work. The urge to check the news when you feel a moment of uncertainty. These aren't surprises, they are patterns, and patterns can be rehearsed. So here is how the scout works. Before you begin a task, you take 60 seconds, you close your eyes, you mentally walk through the coming hour, you see yourself working with focus. Then you introduce a predictable distraction into the scene. You see your phone light up with a message from a difficult colleague. You watch the mental image of yourself noticing it. But instead of the old script, the clenched jaw, the immediate reactive opening, you write a new one. You see yourself taking a breath. You observe the notification as a neutral event. You think that is a message that will require a thoughtful response later, and you see yourself gently returning your attention to your work. You are not suppressing the event. You are preparing your judgment of it. You are doing the Stoic work in advance, separating the external impression from your internal assent. So by the time the real notification arrives, your mind has a pathway already cleared. It feels familiar, manageable. The emotional charge is diminished because you've already faced it in the safe space of your imagination and won. So pick one predictable daily distraction. The one that reliably pulls you off course. Maybe it's the afternoon slump where you reach for social media, or the ping from a particular group chat that always spirals. Tomorrow morning, before that time arrives, spend 1 minute as a scout. Sit quietly, visualize the trigger happening, and then watch in your mind's eye as you enact your ideal, calm response. See yourself pausing, breathing, choosing your focus deliberately. This mental rehearsal is not magical thinking, it is neural training. You are building the cognitive muscle memory for sovereignty. So when the moment comes, your citadel's defenses are already manned, calm, and waiting. A mind that lives on clickbait and outrage, that mind can't be strong. So what's the deep nourishment for your citadel? Every fortress needs a clean water supply. It's the source of life inside the walls. It keeps the defenders clear-headed, resilient. For your inner citadel, that water is the quality of information you let in, the junk food of distraction, the hot takes, the reactive headlines, the endless scroll. It doesn't nourish. It bloats. It leaves your mental energy scattered, your judgment cloudy. The Stoic pursuit is for wisdom, and wisdom needs substantive input. It needs you to actively consume ideas that strengthen reason, that give you richer internal resources to draw on when the digital siege begins. Seneca wrote about this. He warned against reading too many books in a scattered way. He said we must digest ideas, not just collect them. To be nourished by reading, we have to work over what we've read. Turn it over in our minds until it becomes a part of us. That's the difference between sipping from a fire hose of fragmented content and drinking from a clear, cool spring. One leaves you drenched and disoriented. The other quenches a deeper thirst. It builds the intellectual resilience that is your citadel's true water supply. Think of the contrast in your own experience. Spending 15 minutes falling down a social media thread about some controversy. You might come out with a strong opinion, but it's reactive, fueled by the last comment you read. Your mind feels agitated, partisan, tired. Now spend that same 15 minutes with a chapter of Marcus Aurelius, or listening to a thoughtful podcast explaining a philosophical concept. You might not agree with everything, but you're engaging with structured thought. You're following an argument, considering a principle. You come out not with a hotter opinion, but with a calmer perspective. One activity depletes your inner reserves, the other replenishes them. One is mental fast food. The other is a slow, nourishing meal for your capacity to think. The practical shift is simple. It's a conscious upgrade of your information diet. Identify one predictable slot in your day, maybe the first 15 minutes after lunch or the last 15 before bed, that you usually give to low-value scrolling. Commit to replacing it just for a week with a substantive input. Read one letter from Seneca. Listen to a lecture on ancient history. Work through a single page of a difficult book slowly. The goal isn't to become a scholar overnight. The goal is to train your mind's palate, to remind it what deep nourishment feels like. When you consistently feed your mind quality ideas, you strengthen the very faculty, your reason, that is the commander of your citadel. The distractions outside don't just become easier to resist, they start to seem less interesting, less substantive by comparison. So conduct a quick audit. Look at one primary source of your daily information diet. It could be the news app you open first thing, the social platform you check most, the podcast you listen to during your commute. Ask yourself honestly, is this source mainly serving me fragmented, reactive, emotional content? Or is it providing structured, thoughtful, substantive ideas that challenge and expand my understanding? Based on your answer, make one commitment. For the next 7 days, upgrade that source. If it's a news app, switch to reading long-form articles from a single publication. If it's a social platform, use it only to follow accounts that share philosophical excerpts or in-depth analysis. You're not just changing a channel. You're protecting the purity of your water supply. You're ensuring that what flows into your fortress strengthens the walls rather than poisoning the well. Anger online is a fire. It burns from the inside. It doesn't just breach the walls, it consumes the timber they're built from, your reason. Seneca wrote about this. He wrote a whole work called On Anger. He called anger a brief insanity, a temporary madness. You surrender your sovereignty to something external, and no space is more engineered to trigger that surrender than the digital world. The design of a platform often rewards outrage. It turns disagreement into a public spectacle. It gives everyone a megaphone, and then it amplifies the angriest voices. Your defense isn't to never feel the heat. It's to have a fire protocol, a set of practices to stop a spark from becoming a blaze in your own mind. It starts with understanding the fuel. For a Stoic, anger isn't a righteous force. It's a failure of judgment. It's assenting to the impression that you've been truly wronged by an external event. You read a comment, the impression is words on a screen. The judgment you might attach is, this person is insulting me, they're malicious, they must be corrected. That judgment is the kindling, your assent to it is the match, and your furious reply is the fire, burning through your own peace, your own time. Seneca advised a countermeasure. The first movement of anger is involuntary. That surge of heat, the tightening in your chest when you read something, that's just the impression, it happens. The second movement is a choice. That's where you judge the impression to be true and decide to act. The fire protocol is about creating a pause between that first movement and the second. So the practical drill, you're scrolling and you see an inflammatory comment. You feel that surge, the protocol activates, your hand doesn't move toward the keyboard. You don't start composing a reply in your mind. You observe the physical sensation. You might name it silently. There is anger. You acknowledge the impression. Someone has written words I disagree with. That is all that has factually occurred. Then you impose a cooling-off period. For Seneca, this meant walking away, changing your posture. For us, it means closing the tab, putting the phone face down, standing up and getting a glass of water. You're not suppressing the feeling. You're refusing to give it the oxygen of your attention and your assent. A reflective prompt becomes a tool here. Implement a 24-hour rule. Before you respond to anything online that triggers a strong surge, you wait 1 full day. Let the initial judgment cool. Let the story you told yourself about the other person's motives be revisited. So often, after 24 hours, the urge to engage has evaporated. The perceived wrong shrinks to its true size, a trivial spark you didn't fan. And if after a day you still believe a response is necessary, you can craft it from calm clarity. Not from the heat of temporary madness. This protocol protects the most valuable asset inside your citadel, your capacity for rational judgment. It turns the tinderbox of the internet into a training ground. Every time you feel the surge and choose the pause, you're not losing an argument. You're winning a battle for control over your own inner state. You're proving that your peace isn't held hostage by the words of a stranger. The fire dies out and your walls stand intact, stronger for having withstood the test. Your technology needs a treaty with your inner life, not a license to come in and take over. An invader just takes. A treaty is an agreement. It's negotiated. Right now, your devices probably act like invaders. They demand your attention, and you usually give it. Moving to a treaty is about self-command. The Stoics called it Equanimity. It means ruling yourself, and you can't rule if you don't have any laws. A treaty is just the law you set down for your own kingdom. Epictetus had a thought: if you want to get better, be willing to seem foolish about external things. Start with small stuff. A little oil gets spilled. A little wine is stolen. Tell yourself that's the price for peace of mind. The spilled oil, the stolen wine, that's what we give up to distraction. Picking up your phone first thing. Letting a notification cut into a talk. Scrolling when you said you'd work. Each one is a small surrender. You give up a piece of your own sovereignty. The treaty takes it back, clause by clause. These boundaries aren't about losing something. They're about self-respect. You're saying your inner space has value. Your focus has value. It's worth protecting with clear terms. So what's in a peace treaty? The clauses are specific. They're about behavior. They're simple. A clause isn't, "I'll use my phone less." That's vague. It breaks easily. A treaty clause is precise. It says, "My phone doesn't go in the bedroom. It charges in the hall." Another clause says, "I check email only at 11 and again at 4. A third one sets a limit, 30 minutes a day for social apps. The power is in that specificity. You're not fighting a vague feeling. You're following a clear law. A law you made for yourself when you were thinking clearly. Consistency is the key. The treaty is the law of your land. When the urge comes to break it, and it will, you're not debating a temptation. You're upholding an agreement. You're a ruler enforcing a border. That changes everything. It's not a willpower fight anymore. It's just administrative duty. Your future self, the one who wrote the treaty, guides your present self. So here's a way to start. Draft your first clause. Pick your most intrusive piece of tech, the one that feels like an invader. Then write one simple sentence. Define its new, limited role. Make it so clear there's no confusion. For instance, "My phone stays on silent and out of sight during meals." Or, "I delete all social media apps every Sunday night. I only put them back on Friday after work." Or, "The first hour of my day is for a book or a walk. No screens at all." Write it down. That's your first formal peace treaty. It's a small act of sovereignty, a declaration. Your inner space isn't common ground. It's a citadel, and the gates work on your terms. A fortress isn't something that just happens. Your habits are the architecture. Every morning you wake up and you start laying stones. The question is what you're building, a stronghold or something that falls apart at the first notification. The Stoics understood that. They saw order and purpose not as constraints but as the framework for freedom. A mind without a routine is like a citadel without a blueprint. Its gates are just open to every passing thought, every demand. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the duty of the present moment. He said, "Do every act as if it were your last. Do it with seriousness, with feeling, with order." That order isn't about a strict schedule. It's about aligning your actions with your values so consistently that distraction can't find an easy way in. Your routine is the physical form of your inner priorities. It's how you take Stoic ideals, wisdom, temperance, and put them into the minutes and hours of a real day. Think about 2 ways a day can start. The reactive day begins with a hand reaching for a phone. You wake up to a screen full of notifications, emails, news, updates. Before you've had a thought of your own, you've let the whole external world into your mind. You're playing defense from the first moment. Your mental energy is spent before you're even out of bed. Then there's the designed day. The alarm goes off and the phone stays across the room. The first hour is a quiet protocol. Maybe it's a few minutes of journaling, what the Stoics called morning pages, setting intentions. Maybe it's a short walk or just sitting with tea in silence. This isn't just a pleasant start, it's an architectural decision. You're building the first, strongest wall of the day before the siege begins. You're dyeing your soul with your own chosen color, as Marcus said, instead of accepting the chaotic palette of the digital world. The rest of a designed day follows that principle. It schedules blocks for deep work, treats them like sacred appointments with your own purpose. It builds in intentional breaks for renewal, not for mindless scrolling. It ends with an evening review, a maintenance walk along the walls. This routine creates automatic defenses. You don't have to wrestle with whether to check email at 10. The treaty you made with yourself says you check at 11. The decision was made in a moment of clarity, so in the moment of temptation, you just follow the law of your own land. The mental energy you save is enormous. That energy becomes available for the work that matters, for real connection, for the practice of virtue itself. So look at your routine like a builder. Where's the structural weakness? Identify one flaw that most often lets distraction in. Is it no morning ritual, so you're reactive from the start? Is it no defined work blocks, so you drift between tasks? Is it the phone on your desk during focused time, a gate left unguarded? Name that one flaw. Then draft one simple, specific clause to repair it, not a grand redesign, just a single, sturdy stone placed in a weak part of the wall. That's how a citadel rises. Not in a day, but through the daily, deliberate architecture of a life lived on purpose. Sometimes the distraction isn't something outside. It's the spy of procrastination whispering to just check one thing. It sounds reasonable, you'll get back to work in a minute, but that's how the gate gets opened from the inside. Stoicism asks for a kind of ruthless self-awareness here. It calls this the discipline of action, and procrastination is its most clever saboteur. It doesn't look like an enemy, it looks like a helpful suggestion. You're facing a difficult report. The spy doesn't say to run away. It says you should probably research that one extra point first, or your inbox is a mess. You should clear it to have a clean mental space. It disguises avoidance as preparation. It uses the tools of distraction as its cover. The goal is to expose the spy, to see the emotional trigger it's trying to help you escape. Seneca wrote about this waste. He said it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and it's been given to us in generous measure if we use it well. But we let the largest portion of it slip away through carelessness, and that carelessness often wears the mask of being busy, of checking just one more thing. So you sit down to write, a flutter of anxiety rises, the task feels large, ambiguous, you're not sure you can do it well. That's the trigger, the fear of falling short, of not being perfect, and the spy, procrastination, immediately offers a solution. It says you're stressed, you need a break. Why not just scroll for 5 minutes to clear your head? The distraction isn't the primary problem, it's the escape route. The real issue is that initial flutter of anxiety you didn't want to sit with. Boredom is another trigger. A repetitive task feels meaningless. The spy whispers that something more stimulating is just a click away. The distraction promises novelty, a hit of dopamine to cover the dull ache of boredom. But each time you take that escape, you train your mind that boredom is an emergency, that it must be solved externally. You weaken your capacity to endure the necessary, sometimes mundane, work of building anything of value. The Stoic move is interception. It's catching the spy in the act by noticing the physical sensation first, that tightness in your chest before starting. That restless feeling in your hands, you name it. There's anxiety, or this is boredom. You see the trigger for what it is, a passing emotional weather pattern inside your citadel. It's not a command, it's just data. By observing it without immediately acting, you break the chain. The spy's whisper loses its power because you're no longer trying to flee the feeling. You're acknowledging it as part of the landscape of doing hard things. So here's a prompt for true self-observation. The next time you find yourself reaching for a distraction, pause for just 3 seconds. Ask yourself one question. What uncomfortable feeling was I just trying to avoid? Was it anxiety about the quality of your work? Was it the frustration of not knowing the next step? Was it the loneliness of a long task? Don't judge the answer, just identify it. That act of naming the trigger is like shining a light into the shadows of your own mind. The spy can't operate in the light. Once you see the mechanism, this feeling leads to that escape. You can choose a different response. You can decide to feel the anxiety and write one sentence anyway. To feel the boredom and complete one more small piece. That is the discipline of action. It's not about never feeling the trigger. It's about no longer letting it hold the keys to the gate. A fortress can have strong walls, but if the watchtower isn't sending a clear signal, the people inside can still get lost. They end up chasing phantoms. For the Stoics, that signal was telos, your ultimate purpose, not fame or wealth. Those are external, they come and go. It was an internal North Star. To live with virtue, to flourish according to your rational and social nature. When that purpose is clear in your mind, it acts like a beacon. Any distraction, any demand on your attention, you can hold it up to that light. Does this serve my telos? The answer cuts through the noise quickly. The Stoics called the guiding function the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty of the mind. It's the commander of the citadel. Its job is to assess impressions, make judgments, direct action toward the ultimate good. But a commander needs orders. A clear telos gives those orders. Without it, the ruling faculty is like a general without a map, vulnerable to every ambush, every novelty, every urgency. Your mind starts taking orders from the loudest voice outside, not from its own deepest commitment. Think about an evening. You're tired after work. The easy path is to collapse on the couch and scroll. It's passive, it's consuming. There's no telos in charge, just fatigue and habit. Now picture a different evening guided by a purpose. If your telos is to be a more present parent, that beacon shines. It guides you to put the phone away, to build a puzzle with your child, to listen to their story. If your telos is to master a craft, that light directs you to the workshop. 30 minutes of practice, even though you're tired, the fatigue is the same. The distractions are the same, but the beacon changes everything. It turns potential drift into intentional direction. Make it practical. Next time your hand moves toward your phone without thinking, pause. Ask the beacon a question. Does this scroll serve my purpose of becoming more skilled? Does this clickbait article serve my purpose of cultivating a calm mind? The answer is often an immediate, quiet no. That doesn't mean you never relax. It means you choose those activities consciously, as part of a balanced life, not as a default escape from a life without clear direction. When your telos is vivid, trivial amusements lose their pull. They feel like what they are, distractions from a path you've chosen to walk. So here's a way to light your own beacon. Write a one-sentence statement of your core purpose. Your telos as you understand it right now. It doesn't have to be grand, it just needs to be true. It could be, my purpose is to create things of lasting value with my hands and mind. Or my purpose is to foster understanding in my immediate circle. Or my purpose is to learn deeply and share that knowledge. Write it down, put it where you'll see it. That sentence is the light from your watchtower. In the fog of daily demands, it's the signal that shows you the way back to your own walls, to the work that matters, to the life you're building by choice. The strongest walls aren't just thick, they're forged in fire, and your painful experiences can be that fire. That's the forge of the inner citadel. You take the raw, sharp impressions of the world and you transform them. You don't just block out criticism or failure or that feeling of missing out. You learn to place them into the flames of your own reason, and you watch them change shape. What comes out isn't the same pain that went in. It becomes something else. Fuel for resilience, clarity for wisdom. The Stoics called this the alchemy of judgment. It's the most advanced defense because it turns the attack itself into the material for a stronger fortress. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this with the clarity of a blacksmith. He said, "Just as fire takes what is thrown into it and makes it flame and light, so too can a prepared mind take what happens to it. Even what seems like an obstacle and turn it to its own purpose. The event itself is neutral. It's just metal, cold and hard. Your judgment is the forge. Your reasoned choice is the bellows that heats it, and the virtue you cultivate from the experience is the refined shape it takes. This is the ultimate reclamation of power. You are no longer a victim of what happens. You become the alchemist of what it means. Take a negative comment online. The impression is painful. It feels like a personal strike. The undisciplined mind lets that impression become a story of insult, of injustice, of a ruined reputation. It spends hours crafting a defense, or simmers in quiet resentment. The alchemist sees the same data and asks a different set of questions. What can this refine in me? Could it forge a greater humility, a reminder that my worth isn't tied to one person's keyboard? Could it temper my understanding, showing me how words can land harshly, making me more careful with my own? Or could it simply be fuel for the fire of indifference, burning away another layer of concern over things outside my control? The comment hasn't changed, but its function has. It is no longer a weapon against you. It is ore for your forge. Consider the feeling of FOMO, the fear of missing out. You see the curated highlights of others' lives, their adventures, their gatherings. The raw impression is one of lack, your own life seeming dull by comparison. It's a hollow, anxious feeling. The alchemist takes that very feeling and places it in the fire. What is this sensation really pointing to? Is it revealing a genuine desire for more connection in my own life? If so, that's valuable data, fuel to reach out to a friend this week. Or is it simply highlighting my own distraction, my lack of appreciation for the quiet, good things already here? That, too, is fuel for a practice of gratitude, for putting the phone down and truly seeing the room I'm in, the project before me, the peace of an unplanned evening. The painful impression becomes the catalyst for a deeper engagement with your own real path. So here is a reflective prompt. Think of one recent painful impression from your digital world. A dismissive email, a social post that sparked envy, a project that didn't get the engagement you hoped for. Now, instead of replaying the hurt, perform one act of mental alchemy. Ask yourself, if I were to use this experience as fuel, what single quality could it help me forge? Could it forge patience? Could it forge a clearer sense of what I truly value versus what the platform values? Could it forge the resilience to continue creating, even without immediate applause? Name one refined product. In that simple act of reframing, you are not just building a wall against the world. You are stoking the internal fire that makes you unbreakable. The Stoics had this idea of a demon, not a ghost but a guiding spirit, an inner counselor. They saw it as a spark of the divine, a piece of universal intelligence inside every person. It's like your own personal Socrates, waiting in a room of your mind, ready with questions you might not want to face. Marcus Aurelius talked to his all the time. He wrote in his journal to look within. He said within is the fountain of good, and it will keep bubbling up if you keep digging. That fountain is the demon. It's where your conscience comes from, your clearest judgment, the voice that cuts through all the noise of impulse and tells you what fits your true nature. It doesn't yell, it doesn't scold, it just asks. When you're making a choice, especially one driven by distraction or some shallow want, this inner counsel speaks with a quiet, persistent question. Is this necessary? Is this true? Is this kind? 3 simple questions that can break down a whole siege of poor judgment. The first one, is this necessary? It challenges the distraction's very premise. You're about to open a social media app. The counsel asks, is this necessary for my work, for my connection, for real rest? Or is it just a reflex? The second question, is this true? It challenges the story you're telling yourself. You're putting something off because you think it's too hard. The counsel asks, is that true? Or is it just a feeling of discomfort you're turning into an impossibility? The third question is this kind. It extends the judgment outward. You're writing a sharp reply to a comment online. The counsel asks, is this response kind? Not weak, but is it coming from a place of understanding or from wounded pride? This counsel doesn't live in the future or the past. It exists right in the present moment of decision. It's the faculty you use when you feel the pull toward your phone and you pause. In that pause, if you listen, you'll hear its advice. Let's make it vivid. It's late, you've had a long day. You said you'd go to bed at a reasonable hour, but a new series is auto-playing and the next episode is right there. The outer world is loud with the promise of escape. The counsel within speaks softly. It asks, will this add to my health and clarity tomorrow, or will it leave me tired, foggy, full of regret? The answer is obvious. The counsel has advised. Now the choice is yours. To heed it strengthens its voice. To ignore it muffles it, makes the next decision harder to hear. Your demon isn't a tyrant. It's your most trusted advisor. It holds no power except the power of your own reason. So the practice is to create space for it to be heard. Before you make a habitual, distraction-prone choice, give your inner counsel just 3 seconds. In that silence, pose one of its questions. Is this necessary? You don't need a grand answer. Just the act of asking changes the dynamic. You're no longer a subject of your impulses. You are a ruler consulting your cabinet. This week, pick one routine distraction. Maybe it's the after-dinner scroll or the quick check of email before bed. The moment your hand moves toward it, stop. Invite your inner Socrates to speak. What single question does it have for you about this action? Listen for the quiet inquiry under the noise. That's the sound of your own fountain, bubbling up. Even the strongest fortress has its seasons. You can't stay on high alert forever. That's not how nature works. The Stoics didn't believe in constant, grinding work. Their resilience came from a rhythm. They saw human energy like a field. It needs planting and it needs lying fallow. Real strength isn't refusing to rest. It's knowing when to engage and when to step back for quiet restoration. Forced focus, the kind driven by guilt or fear, is brittle. It cracks. It makes the mind resentful. And a resentful garrison will open the gates to any distraction. Seneca wrote about this balance. He made a clear distinction between leisure and idleness. Leisure wasn't doing nothing. It was a change of activity, a purposeful shift to nourish a different part of the soul. He said you have to approach your work refreshed. You can't be fruitful if you're weary. The mind needs space to digest what it's taken in. This is Stoic acceptance applied to your own thinking. You can't hold your breath forever. You can't hold focus without release. Trying doesn't make you stronger. It just makes you desperate for air. Think of your attention as the garrison. After defending the walls, after 90 minutes of deep work, solving a problem, writing with full concentration, that garrison is tired. Its vigilance drops. That's not a failure. It's a report from the field. Toxic productivity says to push through, to ignore the signal, but the Stoic commander reads the report and acts. He orders a strategic retreat. He opens the inner gates to the courtyard for a period of calm. That's not surrender, it's tactics. So what does real rest look like? It's deliberate, often screenless. It's the 15-minute walk after deep work, leaving your phone behind. Your only task is to feel the air, notice the light, let your thoughts wander. That's not wasted time, it's how the mind consolidates what it learned. It makes unexpected connections, then it returns to the walls refreshed. It's reading a book for pleasure, not for research. Sitting quietly with tea, practicing presence not as a drill but as a gift to a tired mind. It's a hobby with your hands where the focus is on the flow, not the outcome. These acts are like sharpening swords, mending armor, sharing a meal in the hall. They aren't the siege, they're what make enduring the next siege possible. But the modern world often turns rest into another kind of consumption. Scrolling on a couch isn't rest for the mind. It's a different, chaotic engagement. It swaps one set of demanding impressions for another. Your garrison goes from defending the main gate to fighting a dozen confusing skirmishes. They come back more scattered, not more rested. True rest lowers the drawbridge to peaceful, undemanding territory. It lets the internal watchtower just observe a calm landscape without needing to issue commands. So look at your own patterns. Are you denying your mind its necessary seasons? Do you move from task to distraction to task again, without ever allowing for quiet restoration? That denial doesn't lead to greater productivity. It leads to a depleted, brittle state. Distraction finds it easy to scale your walls. Your focus becomes shallow. Your patience wears thin. You're trying to harvest from a field you never let lie fallow. Consider scheduling your seasons as intentionally as you schedule work. Block a focus season, then honor the rest season that must follow. See that rest not as a deviation from strength, but as its source. A citadel that knows the rhythm of watchfulness and calm isn't caught off guard. It's eternally prepared because it's in harmony with the natural law of energy. It understands that winter isn't the enemy of the harvest. It's its essential, quiet partner. We defend this citadel for what it shelters, not the walls themselves. It's about your character, your potential impact, the discipline, the quiet. These aren't the goal. They're the stronghold, and inside is a single treasure, your capacity for moral choice, your peace, and from that protected space, your ability to contribute something good. That's the legacy Stoicism is concerned with. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this. He wrote that what matters isn't how long you live, but whether you live in accordance with your nature. Your legacy isn't what you're remembered for. It's the quality of the choices you made while you were here, the character you forged, actions taken from reason, not from reactive chaos. That character, that sum of virtuous choices, is what your citadel exists to protect. So when you guard your attention, you aren't just getting more done. You're protecting the clarity required to see what justice demands in a complex situation. When you fortify your will against shallow validation, you aren't just being disciplined. You're safeguarding the courage it takes to stand by an unpopular decision, a right decision. When you create quiet amidst the noise, you aren't just seeking calm. You're preserving the mental space where wisdom can grow. This turns everyday resistance into something sacred. Saying no to a notification during dinner, that isn't about productivity. It's about defending your capacity to be fully present for the person across the table. Choosing deep work over reactive busyness isn't just efficient. It's about protecting the focus needed to create work that genuinely helps, or teaches, or inspires. That finished project, that patient conversation, that moment of withheld anger, these are the stones of your actual legacy. The good that flows out from a defended inner space. The chaos outside wants to claim that energy, to turn your potential for impact into more data, more consumption, more reaction. Your citadel says no. It says this energy, this one life, is reserved for a higher purpose. So then, what is the one thing within you most worth defending? Is it your patience with your family, your creativity in your craft, your clarity in moments of decision, or your simple, steady kindness? Identify that treasure. Because you have the blueprint now, the walls, the gates, the watchtower. You know how to build. The work is daily, the siege is constant, but the treasure you guard, your potential to live well and do good, that makes every stone you lay a worthy act. This fortress isn't something from the past, it's alive. You live inside it, you make it stronger every time you pick your focus instead of the noise. We walk the walls, the first line of defense, that pause, that space between something happening and your judgment of it. Then the quiet courtyard, where you watch the internal storm, you don't get swept up in it. We saw how a moat, that intentional distance, and a watchtower, that perspective, can change a chaotic siege. It becomes a landscape, something you can manage. But this isn't about perfection. It's the practice, the daily act, the hourly act, sometimes returning to your own sovereignty. Epictetus knew about external chains. He talked about a freedom no one can take. No man is free who is not master of himself. That mastery, it's the quiet victory inside your own walls. You don't win it in one big battle. You win it in 1,000 small decisions. So to start, pick one stone to lay today. Maybe it's the evening review, a 3-minute look at where your attention went. Or maybe it's one clear boundary, a phone-free first hour. Each conscious choice is a brick, a declaration. Your inner space is your own, and defending it, you get back something bigger than time. You reclaim your autonomy, your peace, your capacity to live a life that means something, a deliberate life. So which part of your citadel will you fortify first?